maybe to start, if I could just get you to say a little bit about what integral spirituality is in your view, where it came from, and how it's different from progressive spirituality as we know it more broadly.
I think that the sort of the core tenet of integral spirituality, although I think it might be a little soon in history for us, for really anybody, to be able to say concretely and define integral spirituality in a way that sort of draws a circle around it, because it's just emerging now, and it'll be emerging for the rest of our lives if history is any guide to the way these things evolve. But the central tenet of integral spirituality, it seems to me at this point, is that consciousness evolves. And this is a major fact that our culture hasn't really come to grips with. We haven't digested this insight. And everybody knows that people's character grows, that if people progress, if they're doing well in their lives, that they grow in experience and knowledge and hopefully even wisdom. And that's been going on for thousands of years. People have been getting more wise in cultures, across history. But what's the new insight regarding the evolution of consciousness is that beyond character growth, beyond the sort of the natural path of an individual's development, we can now recognize that individuals have the opportunity to evolve their consciousness in ways that recapitulate the evolutionary events of history. So in other words, the difference between growth of character and evolution of consciousness is that we can recognize in history that the reason that the way consciousness evolves is that human culture evolves, and it evolves not just as a kind of a linear escalator to perfection. It evolves through a series of stages that unfold in a loose pattern of dialectical development. So in other words, the dialectic identified by the idealists, especially Hegel, the philosopher who lived 200 years ago, is commonly known to occur according to the law of change, which he identified as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, right? So you have a condition, the way things are, as time goes on, that condition begins to decay. The movement away from that condition is partially created by the pathologies of that condition. In other words, the way forward is often defined as that which is away from what's wrong with the current situation. And that means that there's a synthesis, right? So the natural pattern of development in evolution, especially in consciousness and culture, is to move from thesis to antithesis. But then as the antithesis develops from the thesis, we find that there's a way to go beyond that, to go beyond just the negation of what was wrong with the previous condition. But there's actually a state of synthesis that transcends and includes, right? That is, transcending and including is a sort of integral jargon for this process of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. In other words, the antithesis transcends and the synthesis includes. And this is the large pattern of evolution that you can see in all forms of evolution, cosmological, biological, and psychosocial. And so we can begin to see that when individuals, especially living in our society, where we have these stages of history laid out before us, when a person is able to transcend one stage of culture to another in their lives, in their lifetime, that counts as the authentic evolution of consciousness, which is something more than just, growth in character. And so we're beginning to recognize this more clearly than ever before. That's one of the major sort of breakthroughs of the integral worldview, is that it can see evolution on the inside, and it can see that human consciousness evolves. When we talk about, our bodies are all more or less equally evolved, right? Humans are humans. But that is, what humans have demonstrated the ability to do is to evolve their consciousness in ways that are independent of their biology. Right? In other words, it's certainly controversial to say that that postmodern humans have consciousness that is somehow more evolved than humans who lived in the Stone Age. But there is quite a lot of research, and the straightforward part of it is that we can see culture evolving. We can see culture evolving through values-based worldview stages, And for example, one of the lines of development within that worldview trajectory is morality. And we can see morality evolving, as an example, from kind of egocentric or family-centric morality, where the only people who count are the people, in your immediate family or tribe, and everybody else is sort of your enemy. And then in history, there's a movement from that to ethnocentric, the development of an ethnocentric morality where more than your blood kin were worthy of moral consideration, that everybody who was part of your linguistic group or your religion or your ethnic nation or whatever, that allowed morality to expand beyond the boundaries of genetic relations. Then, beginning with the advent of modernism 300 years ago and continuing more fully into the postmodern stage, we see a movement from ethnocentric morality to world-centric morality. And I think we can be confident enough in our values to be able to recognize that the movement from egocentric to ethnocentric to world-centric constitutes authentic evolution. Where the scope of those worthy of moral consideration expands to include all sentient beings, then you've really got the evolution of consciousness going on.